Hello and welcome to episode 5 of From the Cheap Seats, your weekly internet show that tells you what is happening in the news. Please remember to click on the icon in the lower right corner, this little red thing here, and that way you can subscribe to the YouTube page. When you go to the YouTube page, click on the bell, and then you will get notifications when a new episode drops. Also, look for the From the Cheap Seats Facebook page and like us there. I'm going to put a link in the comments of how to get to From the Cheap Seats Facebook page just to make your life a little bit easier. Go there, like us. In today's episode, we are going to look at the Catholic Church and their $1.48 billion coronavirus aid package. We're also going to look at President Trump and the pressure he is putting to reopen public schools. We're going to finish with wearing a mask in McDonald County, Missouri. Is it plain impractical? But first, we're going to start with the president commuting the sentence of Roger Stone.
President Trump and Roger Stone had both hinted at the possibility of a commutation, so this wasn't a complete surprise. In a statement, the White House called Stone the victim of a Russia hoax charged by overzealous prosecutors.
Did you talk to Roger Stone tonight?
President Trump ignored questions as he returned to the White House Friday from Florida after commuting the sentence of his friend and former advisor, Roger Stone.
I think Roger Stone was very unfairly treated, as were many people.
The 67-year-old spoke to reporters outside his Fort Lauderdale home shortly after he got the news from the president in a call.
He told me that he had decided to use his extraordinary powers of clemency to commute my sentence.
Stone was due to report to prison next week to serve a 40-month sentence after being convicted in November on 7 felony counts, which include witness tampering and lying to Congress.
Okay, many people think that the president has pardoned Roger Stone. He has not pardoned Roger Stone. He has commuted his sentence. And what's the difference? A pardon is an action of forgiveness where you cancel the legal consequences of a conviction, okay? I kind of call this the Jesus law, okay? The president is kind of like Jesus. He can point to someone and say, you know what? I forgive you for all your sins. And the president can do that. The most blatant example of this is when Ford took the presidency and he pardoned Nixon of any wrongdoings that he may have done, okay? Now, why was Roger Stone not pardoned? Why was he commuted? Well, when you commute something, the only thing that you are really doing is diminishing the sentence. To give you an example, let's say that Roger Stone was convicted of murder and he was put on death row. The president could pardon him, say, oh, he didn't do it, and he's free to go, so on and so forth. But the president could also commute the sentence and say, you know what? I don't want him to be killed for this. I think there was some maybe egregious things that happened in the trial. So I'm just going to say, no, he's not going to be on death row anymore. We're going to give him life in prison. It's a lessening of the consequences. Now, with Stone, you need to realize that he is not just a political ally of President Trump. He's more in the friend zone, you know, where men don't want to be when it comes to that particular woman that they're fancy for. But I'm going to use that term anyway. He's a friend. He's a real confidant of Donald Trump. When Donald Trump has something that he wants to talk about in confidence, I guarantee you he's not going to Mike Pence. Mike Pence is a political ally. He's not a confidant. Stone is a confidant. And let's get this straight. Roger Stone was not prosecuted for standing up for the president like people on the internet are making it sound like. He was prosecuted for covering up for the president. I live in a small town. I live in Peevely, Missouri. Now let's say we have a hypothetical character and his name is Benny Beaverton and he is the town pickpocket. Now, if I stand up for Benny, what I say is, I know Benny, he's a great guy, I can vouch for his character, and I don't believe he ever pickpockets. Okay, there is no law against standing up for someone. Now, if I've actually seen Benny pickpockets, and I know he does it, but I think, you know what, I like Benny. I'm gonna have to cover this up. So I go on all the social media that maybe has a clip of him picking pockets, and I find a way to get all that eradicated. And I go to people whose pockets he's been picked, and I strong arm them because I'm such a tough guy. And I tell them, boy, if you testify against Benny as a pickpocket, I will whatever, whatever, whatever. Okay? That's what Roger Stone did. He didn't just stand up. He actually covered up the evidence. Okay? Now, with a pardon, you can no longer invoke the Fifth Amendment as a justification for refusing to testify in court. In other words, with a pardon, Roger Stone cannot invoke his Fifth Amendment and refuse to testify against the president. If he's pardoned, they can subpoena him and they can say, okay, now you have to testify against your boss, against your confidant, against your friend Donald Trump, the guy you're in the friend zone with. You need to testify. You have to testify. And Trump doesn't want that. So basically, Trump did what he could do to save himself from being testified against, yet help his friends stay out of jail. He commuted the jail sentence. Now, President Trump in the video clip we watched said something that also caught my ear. He said that Roger Stone, along with other good people. Who are these good people? Who gets commuted next? Is Trump just going to go down the list of all of his friends and say, boy, this one's been convicted and this one's been convicted, but they're friends of mine. I'm going to commute them. I'm going to commute them. I'm going to commute them, but I won't pardon anybody. And that way I'll keep myself out of hot water. Welcome to segment number 2 of From the Cheap Seats. I want to read an excerpt from the Associated Press. The U.S. Roman Catholic Church used a special and unprecedented exemption from federal rules to amass at least 1.4 billion, that's billion with a B, in taxpayer, like I'm a taxpayer, back coronavirus aid, with many millions going to dioceses that have paid huge settlements or sought bankruptcy protection because of the clergy sexual abuse cover-ups. Does this piss off anybody else besides me? Because I don't see anybody getting upset about this. Maybe it's the culture in which we live today, but I want to bring up 3 points, okay? Number 1, the Catholic Church should be like any other religious institution. If you make your money off donations for religious purposes, then that's what you are. That's the way you've chosen to sow and reap for centuries. That's the rules you play by. In today's age, when you have something like coronavirus and churches are shut down, it is so easy to continue to pay your tithes and offerings via the internet. It's no longer an issue. Shoot, even if you're a dedicated person and maybe you're older and don't do the internet, you can still put that check in an envelope, lick it, and send it to your local parish. It's fine. The Catholic Church still has ways of collecting their money. But when the government is in the business of bailing out religious institutions during crisis, we are teetering way too close to the separation of church and state line, although we've been teetering that way for quite a while now. The Catholic Church is a global organization that has a net worth of between 10 and 15 billion dollars, although nobody can be sure, because their assets are tied up in land, their assets are tied up in their churches, which are very ornate and very expensive. Their assets are also tied up into other investments. But being they're a religious organization, nobody can know for sure. But one thing we do know is that they are worth tens of billions of dollars. And yes, the virus may have hurt a little bit with contributions for not just Catholic churches, but for all religious organizations. But I know the dedication of Catholic people. I know the dedication of religious people. Sizable contributions will continue to roll in whether the doors are open or not. Now, my second point is this, and this is not going to be too popular with some of my friends who are of the Catholic faith, but I'm going to say it anyway. Why give 1 red cent to an organization based on the ethical issue of the church spending resources for centuries to conceal the worst case of institutionalized child molestation in the history of mankind? I know this isn't a popular issue. I was a minister for 10 years, although I wasn't Catholic, I was Baptist. I know how people are passionate about their faiths and their belief systems. But come on. I have Catholic friends who defend their faith to the nth degree, yet they will never address the elephant in the parish. If an entity has the keys to heaven, like the Catholic Church claims, we have the keys to heaven, yet that key ring is stacked with secret locks designed to hide such a perversion, wouldn't you question the entire set? Wouldn't you question, hey man, if they are concealing child molestation, maybe this isn't the organization that can get me to heaven? Finally, if this AP report is correct and it's not fake news, and millions went to parishes that were financially devastated due to legal fees to protect the child molesting men of God, shouldn't the American taxpayer be up in arms? Shouldn't we be pissed off about this? Okay, let's say that there's an auto repair company in my area, and we find out that it has a history and current status of multiple mechanics who are child molesters. You want to know what I do? I find another place to take my car and hope that the perverts lose their business and wind up serving hard time. Now, if locals found out that their tax money was going to keep this business of debauchery afloat, we would picket, demonstrate, and possibly burn that place to the ground. However, the Catholic Church has had its indiscretions plainly revealed on the nightly news for the past 30 years. I remember 1991 was the first time I saw a local story about this, and I was appalled, and it seems like it just never goes away. Why, oh why, would somebody explain this to my pissed off mind? Why, oh why, is the Catholic Church worthy of $1.48 billion in corona aid when we have real people who need money? And now for something truly amazing.
So what we want to do is we want to get our schools open. We want to get them open quickly, beautifully in the fall. And as you know, this is a disease. It's a horrible disease, but young people do extraordinarily well. And we hope that most schools are going to be open. We don't want people to make political statements or do it for political reasons. I think it's going to be good for them politically, so they keep the schools closed. No way. So we're very much going to put pressure on governors and everybody else to open the schools, to get them open. And it's very important. It's very important for our country. It's very important for the well-being of the student and the parents. So we're going to be putting a lot of pressure on open your schools in the fall.
And what kind of pressure can the president put on these schools? Well, it's the same threat he always relies on. The government will defund you. We're not going to give you any money. We'll make you go broke. You know, that kind of shit that the president is really good at in doing these threats that I'm going to take away money. Completely forgetting about that these are human lives we're talking about, you know, children at school, stuff like that. He will punish the schools by not giving them money, probably starving kids because they're not going to get their free lunches, so on and so forth. Do you know what a real big crock of shit is? It's this. People that are protesting about having to wear masks, about their ability to get a haircut, the right to patronize their local saloon. It is my right to choose to do these things or not. Yet, when we have a real situation where parental state and local choice should be at its highest priority, because we are dealing with our children, the president is trying to force people to sacrifice the health of their own children and young citizens to go to school. Now listen, I understand we need to open this country back up. But you know what? We don't need to open it up until we're ready. Yeah, online schooling is not the optimal way of learning, but it is something that we can do. I had 2 kids in college and 2 kids in high school, and both of them had to do, or all 4 of them had to do online learning at 2 different places. It worked out okay. They didn't get stupid. They learned something. They got good grades. Is it optimal? No, it's not optimal, but it is something that can be used while we get through this. But the president's saying, you know what, the hell with all this. We have to have these people in schools. Do you know what a school is? It's a petri dish. And there are hundreds of thousands of petri dishes in the country. And you don't have to have any more evidence than this, than the common cold. You go into school, someone comes with a cold, everybody's getting the cold. You know we're all getting the cold. Now, the same thing's going to happen with COVID. Someone's going to go to school with COVID. Yeah, they'll have their temperature taken and they'll say they're feeling fine. They'll go there, not knowing that they're symptomatic, that they're just asymptomatic at this time, and they're going to pass it on. And it's going to go around the school like a petri dish. Now you're going to have detractors say, yeah, but you know, a 97% recovery rate is just like the common flu, so on and so forth, blah, 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 blah. No, it's not. Because when you have severe corona and you have a compromised immune, what they have to do is put you on a ventilator. We don't have enough hospitals to have people who need to be on ventilators. When this thing completely blows open, like it has in certain areas, it floods the hospitals and they cannot handle the volume of not just COVID people, but people going to the hospital for other things. It is not just like the cold or the flu. The recovery is much more severe for people who are compromised, and it takes up space in our hospitals. Are kids going to take this to school and spread it? Hell yes. I don't have to be Dr. Fauci to know this. Let's look at how COVID is spread in churches like wildfire since they reopened. A few segments ago, or a few episodes ago, we talked about how COVID is rampant in these churches in the South that they went all gusto to reopen because it was their right and God was going to protect them. Church meets, what, 3-4 hours once a week at the most? I know some people will like go to church 4 or 5 times a week, but for the most part, it's not something that you spend a lot of time at, and COVID spread like wildfire there. We're going to have kids and teachers in rooms that are designed to not have social distancing, that are designed to be close together, and we expect the kids and the teachers to be in close proximity for 35 hours a week with absolutely no real repercussions. In one of the quotes, the president said something of this nature: of all the people in this particular area that got COVID under 18, only 1 died. That's not bad. It's not bad to only have 1 die. Of course it's not bad to only have 1 die, because you don't care who the hell dies, do you, Mr. President? As long as it's not you or your people. Now, has the administration seen spikes since the country has reopened? Yeah, they're not immune to the news. They know there are spikes. Of course, they could claim fake news or, hey, the only reason we got so many spikes is because we can test people now. One thing that is certain, it is universally understood that the United States of America leads not only this continent, not only this hemisphere, not only this planet, but the whole entire freaking galaxy in new cases of coronavirus. So being the bully that the president is, he is trying to force people into doing his will, which is, I do not care about the health of our children. I care about getting our schools open. I care about getting our businesses open. This will all disappear if we ignore it, right, Mr. President? This is a man who cannot string 2 sentences together, and he is trying to tell health experts to F off, and he is going to rely on myself. And finally, the hotspot for new COVID cases is not New York City. It's not Florida. It's not Texas. It's not LA, Washington, D.C., or any other big metropolitan area in the United States. No. The hotbed for COVID outbreak is McDonald County, Missouri. There it is, right down there next to Arkansas, next to Kansas, next to Oklahoma, doing its thing, rural Missouri, hillbillies, the whole 9 yards. 1 in 28 people in McDonald County, Missouri have corona. Yeah, I'm in Missouri, but I'm on the other side of the state, so I'm not worried about what's going on there. Yeah, I'm a little worried about it, but I don't think it's going to affect me at this point. 1 in 28 in this county have been tested positive for corona. That's amazing. If New York City had this ratio, they would have 303,571 positive cases of COVID-19. That is a staggering amount. Why has McDonald County, Missouri become the hotspot for new COVID outbreak? Well, they have a Tyson poultry plant in McDonald County. And being meat production, food production has been deemed essential during this outbreak. They have not had the luxury, I guess, of closing down while this thing goes over. So they have continued to produce their poultry in this plant at the same alarming rate that they've been going for years and years and years. Now, if you don't know much about poultry plants, it's very squeezed quarters. They're churning out so much product. They're in a tight line. There is absolutely no way that the plant can run with social distancing. And being it's an essential plant, people are just there next to each other, and of course, breathing on each other, and of course, you're going to have the outbreak. That's what's going on in McDonald County. One of the quotes I found interesting was from a man named Andrew Moritz, who is a Pineville, Missouri resident in McDonald County. He said this about the outbreak, where 1 in 28 people in his county have COVID. He said, "It's mostly political, honestly. A lot of people around here think that wearing a mask is really stupid around here, an infringement on rights." Gee, with this mindset, no wonder 1 in 28 people in this county currently have COVID, and it's just going to keep going up and up. I want to tell you a story. Yesterday, I went to my son's graduation, which was postponed for a few months because of COVID. And they had it, instead of having it at the indoor place where they used to have it in St. Louis at Chaffetz, they actually had it outdoor on their high school football field. Social distancing was enforced. They had 400 graduates that were adequately spaced apart. And there were, aside from the 400 graduates, there were about, I would say, probably 1,100 more in the stand. So there was about 1,500 people there total. It was required that we all wear masks. And I'll tell you what was amazing. While we were there, 182 people passed out wearing their masks. Of those 182 people, 47 died because they suffocated through their mask. Another 13 people died because of all the germs that were in the mask from their breathing, just shot right back up into their breathing system and killed them on the spot. There were ambulance couldn't get in there to get out. People were falling out of trees. It was so terrible. No, actually, of the 1,500 people there, we were all required to wear masks. And guess what? The only casualty we had was one person. The photographer who had been taking pictures passed out on the turf field because of heat exhaustion. That's it. So people like Mr. Moritz, you don't want to wear a mask. Yeah, I cannot go around, people cannot go around and tie masks on you. Just know this. You're stupid. And if you're such a pussy you can't breathe through a mask, I don't know what to tell you. Hey, this has been From the Cheap Seats, episode number 5, and I'll be back with episode number 6 next week.